Hey, how's it going, all you lovely people at Shut Door Shutter, coming back to you with a brand new episode of Craftoria, and today we are going to quickly look at the quest book here. So, a handful of things. I still have not gotten all of the implosion compressors done, as you can see behind me. I'm going to do this off camera, but I quickly wanted to look at a quest book and just kind of see what progress we need to make, right? And we really are getting closer to the end game, but the problem is we're going to start running into a lot of things that are very intensive in resources, right? And not the resources that we are getting naturally, the resources that are being crafted by our assemblers and all of this other stuff, and that's becoming an issue, right? Because of course you can see here we've added another vacuum freezer, and I actually set these 3 electric blast furnaces that I set aside as stainless steel, because we were blowing through stainless steel like there was no tomorrow. Especially whenever you're using nuggets for stainless steel on several of these, and each one of these then, makes up this portion or makes up something else, it's going to blast through stainless steel pretty darn quickly. So we've got 49,000 tungsten, 49,000 beryllium, and the beryllium, if I remember correctly, is part of, the nuclear mixed plates, and the nuclear mixed plates will give us nuclear alloy plates, and then that is a whole ball game in and of itself, because this will start getting us towards nuclear power, which is actually where we want to be. We want to start looking at nuclear power. And actually, I don't even know how to start looking at nuclear power, because I'm assuming we will need to be able to get a nuclear reactor before getting nukes, is what I'm thinking, because I don't know how to get plutonium any other way, which I'm assuming, let's see here, I would assume tiny dust is kind of where you get it. Yeah, okay, so we will need to get the nuclear reactor. Fine, that's perfect. I don't know anything about the nuclear reactor. Yeah, cannot explode, emit radiation, or otherwise damage the surrounding area. So that is pretty cool, but we will need to get this before we get the nukes, and this should be where we get our nukes at the end of the day. And then, of course, it looks like singularities after the fact, because you need those for nukes. And then, yeah, that is going to be a process. And then it looks like UU matter, replicator. I don't know if this is actually worth getting into. I mean, I would assume you can replicate a lot of things. You do need UU matter. Okay, so we will need to do that for the quantum. And I mean, if we could do the replicator, but this is like mechanism extras. Oh man, that is a lot of shenanigans. Okay. So we may avoid that. Not 100% sure. We also have like the fusion reactor and plasma turbine. But basically we are close. We are very, very close. But the problem now is we're close, but we're not close, because this is going to take a long time. I am going to work on getting the implosion compressor stuff done here real quick. And then we will look at... We are like filling up on a lot of things, which is actually a good thing. And I haven't talked about this. Let's actually talk about this before I look at implosion compressors. I have completed a second set of distillation tower duels, and then of course we've got 24 turbo upgrades, which is keeping this thing floating. Each one of these has 4 HV diesel generators with just normal diesel being pumped in, and all of them are sustaining these actual stainless steel distillation tower thingies, and we are cruising. I mean, we are straight up cruising here. We actually are not losing any steam crack naphtha out of this tank. It is balanced, and this thing has hit its max 100 times overclock. It cannot overclock any faster. If we added another one of these, we probably could end up getting some good stuff, but yeah, you can see that we are decreasing quite a bit on our naphtha in general, because we're not making enough, and all of this is flowing back into the actual normal spot too, so that is something to think about. But we're cruising. But yeah, I've just been kind of trying to repair and add and a whole bunch of other stuff to the systems we currently have, because we hit one roadblock after another, and each roadblock we hit is just me adding another little portion to this whole factory. There's a lot of things to get done, but definitely getting the nuclear reactor, I think, is our next step. Getting cryofluid probably is not a bad option. We'll probably do that on camera. The biggest thing with Cryofluid that I will say is we will need to have a separate production of Argon before we actually do anything. And the reason that is because right now we don't have any actual Argon. And you saw this little tower set up over here. I just kind of ignored it. But this is actually where the Argon and nitrogen now are because I had to move it because I needed more. And this is still not even enough for our main production. So we're actually going to just make a whole separate system with another pressurizer and get that running that way. But yeah, this is definitely something. We also need to have a solution for our nitrogen overflow, which I actually do have a solution. I'll show you that here real quick. With our hydrogen and oxygen system over here, I've implemented the integrated dynamics to basically say, hey, if you have 32 million millibuckets in this, start dumping. That's basically all this does. And you guys can see here that we are doing less than or equal to 88, 89. 88 is less than or equal to the actual variable card, the total fluid amount. And then that will say, hey, this is greater than 32 million millibuckets. And then it'll start dumping, right? So this is the fluid reader, by the way, and a redstone writer. And then, of course, the actual ultimate pipe upgrade to activate this when we need to. So this is going to avoid oxygen and keep it very, very good amount, but also right at the amount where we want to. Of course, we could say, hey, we could have this full and then activate it, but I really wanted to make sure that we don't have any problems where these seize and lose efficiency or anything of that sort. So yes, these guys have been cruising. We're actually getting way more hydrogen than we need, but that's okay with me because the more hydrogen we get, the better, because hydrogen is what we need. We don't really need oxygen. And if we ever do need more oxygen, we'll cut that line and we will just send it further, right? Polyvinyl chloride. I actually had lead here. Chromium is the best way to go. If you have an option between 4 lead and chromium, chromium gives you more output. I did not realize that. That was on me. And so we're now making more polyvinyl chloride rather than wasting it because I was putting lead in. Bad idea. Bad idea. These are some funny looking implosion compressors, man. I totally got distracted. Oh, goodness gracious. So I fixed our annealed copper issue, by the way. Just a little bit. Just a little overkill. Stainless steel, annealed copper, titanium, and platinum is actually what these are. I didn't do Canthal because Canthal's really not used that much other than using it for EBF. So that's actually still up here, but a lot of this stuff has been cleared out and that will give us more space. I got to take out the generators and all of that stuff, but I'm going to actually probably take this, clean it up a little bit and move it over to the left and then probably put our cryofluid stuff here as well. But yeah, just a little bit of an update, kind of just been working through getting that moved, kind of getting a little bit more bang for our buck. I don't think we'll run out of anything. And I know, of course, somebody was talking about titanium drills in the comment section. I don't remember who it was. We don't need to make titanium drills. And I think I've mentioned this previously. The only ore we don't have is, I think, mithril from irons. And I'm not really caring about mithril. We don't touch irons that much. We probably won't. But we do have fluorite, we have uranite, we have iridium, and we already have uranium. We have all of these because of the occultism miners, right? We don't need any of that stuff. So we are good. I think this should last us a little while. Of course, superconductive coils and all of that stuff down the line we can get. And then I think that'll let us be a little bit better off. But overall, this is cruising, this is running. I think we are good. I mean, we can see that we have 14,000, 15,000, or 1.5 thousand. I thought this was 15,000 from a distance. 1.5, which is still good because we're not running out of it. We actually are gaining, which is a good thing, and I like to see that. Same thing over here. We are gaining. We are good because we're using a lot of titanium rods and stuff. And, of course, titanium for that as well. And so this is fantastic. Yes, tons and tons of good stuff. But I just quickly wanted to update because this is kind of a massive stage of progress, just because we are making a lot more of the minerals and materials and all of that stuff that we're needing. So I think the next step is definitely to try and get a better system for Argon. But you can see we're kind of running out of liquid air. And I actually don't think it's because we're down. Oh, actually, we are out on here. Okay. So it looks like this system needs to be improved, which I think maybe 2 of them. And maybe less of these? Not 100% sure. But let me get going on that. I just wanted to update, and we'll be right back. Alright, so after a little bit of work here, we have our normal argon and nitrogen production, and then our new argon production, which of course is going to be used for cryofluid. This is going to be a little bit more complicated, because whenever you use cryofluid, which here's the recipe... Nope, that's not the recipe. Where is the recipe at here? It should be in the vacuum freezer. There we go. We'll bookmark this. So, once you use cryofluid, you actually will get a return a lot of the time. So, like here, you're not getting a return, it looks like. But here, you're getting a return. So, whenever we start making stuff with this, we will get somewhat of a return. I'm not really too worried about the return right now, so we're not going to worry about that. But basically, we're just going to tank it back into the system, right? But I have helium, which if you don't know, helium, we actually have had some production of helium for a little while now. And that is because we have been getting the monazite stuff here from the centrifuge, which gives us 300 millibuckets of helium. I don't know if there's a better way. Shale oil is a better way, so stainless steel drills if you wanted to get more helium. That's like 50 millibuckets per. That's kind of rough, I'm not gonna lie. And I don't think there's any other... Yeah, shale oil and monazite. Which, of course, our monazite, we have... How much monazite left? Monazite. Nope. There we go. Monazite, if I can spell correctly. 3.3 million. I'm not too worried. And I actually just went ahead and fixed that. Added HV, diesel generators, and a whole bunch of other stuff to make sure we're actually producing helium consecutively. So I've got an intertank here with helium in it. And what we're going to do, we're just going to do this on camera. But we do need a vacuum freezer. So what I'm going to probably do is get, actually not MV, HV. I'm so used to doing MVs. We're just going to grab 4 of these guys. And we're going to grab some cobblestone. Like a building block for a second. Okay. And we're just going to put them like so. And let me get the vacuum freezer built here real quick. Actually, I guess, hold on. So, real fast, we're going to grab a fluid input. So, we're going to put the fluid input here, right? And then, of course, our argon will be there. And then we're going to grab an HV input. Energy input here. And we're going to put that right here. Then we're going to put a fluid input hatch here. And that's going to be our helium, right? So I'm going to put this down one, put our ender tank there. And then everything else is going to be vacuum freezer. We're actually like right at the ceiling, aren't we? What's right above us? The empty space, right? There's... Oh, there is this right here. Actually, this can be removed. I'm okay with taking that out if we need to. Vacuum freezer. So if we actually just grab the main block here, we can see how... Ooh, that's not the right thing. Get that out of here. And grab our wrench. Okay, yeah, so we only just need to cut out the floor. That's what I was trying to make sure of. And we'll then put, like, the output here. So output of cryofluid. Right there. And then we'll just grab a Supreme tank. And plop that bad boy right there. And then the vacuum freezer will be, of course, there. And that should work. I'll get everything wired, get the vacuum freezer in place, and that is cryofluid. Of course, we'll need to put fluid pipes here and fluid pipes here, but that is everything. So let me get that, and I'll be right back. So one thing I did forget about is you're going to need to put upgrades in here to actually get this to properly process. Because if you don't know, this does require... Yeah, there it goes. It does require more EU, which, of course, you can do 256 EU per tick is the actual unit that we need. Recipe base 256. Of course, we've put more in there. This is 1024, and I think, what is it, 8 stack, 512? So you just need to make sure that you're doing however many. Of course, I was going to put upgrades in here anyway because I want a whole bunch of this. But this takes 12.5 seconds per operation. So, yeah, let's actually just see 16. Let's grab another 16 and just see if we can do that. And that should be cryofluid. whenever this first operation has. It already has. Perfect. So cryofluid. And then, of course, we will now be able to start looking at cooling cells and qubits and stuff of that sort. But, of course, qubits require superconductor, which I think we'll probably do... let's see. So how do we do this? So I'm not really caring about doing a heat exchanger, by the way. I don't really think I need to worry about that. Where is the heat exchanger? Remember, the pressurizing water into HP water costs a lot less of the energy, but the turbine will not give it back. You can use the heat exchanger to recover the water. So yeah, this is basically just a large version of the vacuum freezer, right? Like it's a little bit different. It does a little bit more different, a little different functionality, but I don't really think I need to worry about it. So I'm just gonna stick with a vacuum freezer, kind of stick with that same design. But we do need to look at how we make the superconductor dust, right? So this is a mixer. So annealed copper, neodymium, yttrium, and iridium. We have all of that. We have all of that. So let's actually just quickly go get this set up. Let me find a spot for it, which I think what we'll do is over in this area where we've kind of got like everything else. We'll just like slap it here. I think that should work. Actually, let me find an area better than that one. All right, so we're gonna sandwich this into our EBF kind of mass production area here, and let's get that going. So superconductor, conductor. We want to look at the superconductor dust, right? And we're going to need to do a couple things. So first things first, we need a annealed copper dust, which is actually going to be a crushing recipe because we don't actually currently have any of that, right? Let's actually just click recipe. Yeah, so you can see we'll need the annealed copper ingot in a macerator. There's no other way to make that unless we did ours, but we're not doing that. That's a little complicated to put down here. So we'll need annealed copper. We're just going to request a stack, and that is going to have to be put on a crusher, or macerator, my bad. Macerator. And we may want to do multiple of these. I'm not 100% sure. We'll kind of evaluate and then go from there. Okay? The next thing we're going to want is, of course, the iridium, yttrium, and neodymium. And those, of course, will just be items that we will immediately just transport over and not have to worry about. Okay? And then mixer. And then item pipes. Typing a little fast for my hands, apparently, or for my thoughts. Goodness gracious. Okay. And we actually want this to be a separate connection. Actually, do we really need to worry about a separate connection? We can do like a primary, which will be these three things inputted in here, and we can just set the recipe while we're here to this, so it'll lock it. And then here will be the annealed copper. And then output. Blacklist. And then we just grab some motors. Perfect. Okay. Then we'll get power to this, which I'll just do here real quick off camera. All right. That is good. Let's grab the last item pipe set that we need, which will be for transmitting this over here. And then, of course, we want to make sure we have some kind of motor on it just to speed this up even faster, just so it'll push it. And then, of course, we'll want to make sure that we actually grab some upgrades for these guys as well, which I'm thinking turbo. If I can click correctly. There we go. And that will get us a functional storage drawer. With probably one or two of these guys in it. Not 100% sure if that's going to be good, but we'll see. And that should be superconductor stuff, right? I will get the EBFs and everything set up off camera because this is stuff you guys have seen plenty of times. I've never made superconductor stuff, and I thought this would be an interesting thing, especially because it's a little bit different, right? We're having to break down a material that we actually craft over here, which I'm hoping will hold out, honestly. We have like 6,000. Okay. I will keep an eye on that because I definitely want to make sure that we don't just run out of annealed copper, because that would kind of suck. And I may want to throw a handful more upgrades. Actually, how fast is this? 576. This is 576 as well. So yeah, that should match the speed, I hope, at this. But we will see. And we made sure we locked that. Did I add this? Which one did I add this to? For our main system? I don't want to do that. Actually, I'm going to remove this. Because this is just going to be piped, right? There's no need for us to add this to our system. It just needs to become superconductive, right? Like, I don't think there's any use for any of this. So yeah, this is just a byproduct, basically, and our main product, or I guess it's a side product. No, it's the part of the main product, but not useful for any side products. That's what I'm trying to say. The actual ingot, the non-heated version, is the thing that we definitely want to get, because this, I don't think is actually useful in itself. Just double checking with you guys here. I think the biggest thing is for the plates. The plates are kind of where it starts. Then after the plates, it's the wires. And then the wires can then be made into qubits and then superconductor cables. And then superconductor cables are where a lot of the use comes into play. And also, of course, the superconductor coil. And then that is also more useful because it's part of the EBF. And it looks like whatever this is, the Pyrolyse oven, which I've never used. Industrial overdrive. And a large electric furnace. Huh. But yeah, this is kind of what we're looking at. The actual EBF, which I want the superconductor coil portion, which is, yeah, the molten iridium and the actual quantum upgrade to quantium. So, with that being said, all of the superconductive stuff, or superconductor stuff, I think we're going to wrap this one up here. I actually have not continued with the implosion compressors just yet, because I'm kind of trying to get the argon, I'm trying to get the cryofluid, I'm trying to get the superconductor pieces and everything. And of course, this is kind of like a thing that will help us progress, but also not help us progress in the way we need as of current. So, we are cruising. We are getting stuff done. We are letting things build. And actually, before I guess we wrap up real fast, I want to check a couple things with you on camera. So, I did change this to a cosmic tank, by the way, which we're at 68,000. And we also did, yeah, see how much argon we're getting? You can see there's a full tank, which is fantastic. I don't want to check on how much argon we're getting on our main. We have 109,000, and over here we have 124,000. And of course, nitrogen is being contained by the integrated dynamics little system that I added there. But yeah, everything else, by the way, for nitrogen and oxygen is just being voided on this system, so we don't have to worry about it. And then the last thing I want to look at is the monazite system, which is right here, which I've just kind of laid it down on its side and then added HV diesel generators. They had boosted diesel added to the MVs, so I just kind of left that there, but I added them to HVs instead, so that way we're actually getting quite a bit of power out of this. I could probably add more upgrades and stuff to this, but I also noticed this is a problem. We are overcrowding our ender chest, so I might have to figure that one out sooner or later. That may be a bigger problem. But yeah, we are making enough helium, we're doing quite a bit of goodies, and everything is functioning. But yeah, this has been a blast. I'm kind of surprised. I think originally I was really not wanting to push myself too far into modern industrialization, but the further I've went, the more I've enjoyed the mod. Honestly, it's a very lightweight mod compared to GregTech, which is its, you know, kind of parent mod, right? It's based off of it. It's less intensive than GregTech, and this is probably the extent that I would ever go. And then, of course, with Craftoria adding its own stuff, it actually added a little bit more to make it a little bit more difficult to get to the end game. But that's okay. Once we get the quantum sword, that will be kind of the last modern industrialization episode. Then we're going to do some dimension hopping and a handful of other things. But I'm assuming, hoping, the next couple of episodes will have the quantum sword, and that will be beautiful. I know this episode is a little less jumpy than the previous. I kind of talked a lot more than normal, but I've kind of missed talking and kind of telling you guys what we're looking at, what we're doing, and everything like that. So thank you guys so much for watching. Stay awesome, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Bye-bye.